In a quiet town called Ephesus, the sun began to rise. The warm light poured over the bustling streets and the busy marketplace. You could hear merchants calling out, offering their wares. In the heart of this city, a young leader named Timothy was trying to guide a community of believers. He was not just any leader, he was a beloved disciple of Paul, the great apostle who had traveled the world preaching the good news of Jesus Christ. Paul was a man of deep faith and experience. He had faced many trials and challenges throughout his life. But now, he was in a distant place, perhaps in chains, reflecting on the faith he had instilled in Timothy. Knowing the struggles Timothy faced, Paul wrote him a letter, filled with wisdom and encouragement. This letter would serve as a guide for Timothy in his role as a shepherd of the church in Ephesus. As Timothy opened the scroll, he felt a mix of excitement and fear. Paul's words embraced him like a warm blanket. With pen in hand, he began to read about love, faith, and the responsibility that came with leadership. Paul urged Timothy to stand strong against false teachings that threatened the faith of the community. He reminded him that true love comes from a pure heart, a good conscience, and sincere faith. Timothy knew that these words would shape his journey. In the letter, Paul addressed the various challenges Timothy faced in his role. He reminded him to teach the truth boldly and to stand firm against those who strayed from it. Paul's words echoed strongly as he spoke of the importance of sound doctrine. He wrote about the need for prayer in every situation, urging both Timothy and the church to lift their voices to God. They should pray for all people, for kings, and for those in authority. Such prayers would lead to a peaceful and quiet life, full of godliness and dignity. Timothy took this to heart. He began to gather the believers, leading them in prayer. They would sit together, sharing their burdens and lifting their hopes to God. Each prayer became a reminder of their dependence on God's guidance. They learned that prayer was not just a routine but a lifeline that connected them to God's heart. As he continued to read, Timothy encountered Paul's teachings on worship. Paul urged him that men should pray, lifting holy hands without anger or quarreling. He also addressed how women should dress modestly and focus on good deeds rather than outward adornment. Paul's focus was clear. It was about the heart and the character of the believer. Timothy felt the weight of these instructions. He knew that the way they carried themselves reflected their faith. It was a call to purity and grace. Through this, Timothy learned a vital lesson. A church that seeks to honor God must reflect his character in both actions and attitudes. He encouraged the women in the church to embrace their roles, teaching them that they could influence their families and communities profoundly through their faith and good works. Paul also spoke of leadership within the church. He outlined the qualifications for elders and deacons. They must be above reproach, faithful in their marriages, and well respected in their communities. Timothy understood that these leaders would shape the future of the church. Their lives must be examples of the very faith they preached. Timothy began to prayerfully consider who among them would meet these criteria. He talked to the elders, encouraging them to live faithfully and to guide others. The church began to look up to these leaders, recognizing their commitment to God and the truth. But Paul did not hold back from warning Timothy about the dangers that lay ahead. He spoke of the deceitful spirits and teachings that would rise up, misleading many. He reminded Timothy to stick to the truth he had learned, to nourish himself on the words of faith and good teaching. Timothy took these warnings seriously. He committed to studying the scriptures diligently. He surrounded himself with wise counsel and engaged in discussions about the teachings of Jesus. He knew that he needed to be rooted in the truth to guide others effectively. With each passing day, Timothy grew stronger in his faith. He also learned the importance of humility. Paul reminded him not to let anyone look down on him because he was young. Instead, he was to set an example for others in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity. This was a charge Timothy took to heart. He began to lead by example, showing those around him what it meant to follow Christ with passion and integrity. As Timothy continued to grow, he faced opposition. Some people questioned his authority. Others resisted the teachings he sought to uphold. In these moments, Timothy felt discouraged. But as he read Paul's words reminding him to fan into flame the gift of God, a sense of courage began to stir within him. He realized that he had been given a divine calling, and he had the strength of the Holy Spirit to help him fulfill it. Timothy began to share his struggles with the church. He encouraged them to support one another, to build each other up in faith. They started small groups where they could pray, learn, and grow together. The community began to thrive as they nurtured one another's faith. As the days turned into weeks, Timothy found himself addressing various issues within the church. Some were struggling with their faith. Others were caught in disputes. But through it all, he remained a source of hope. He encouraged everyone to pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. He reminded them to fight the good fight of faith. Timothy also learned about generosity. Paul urged him to instruct the wealthy in their community to not be arrogant or put their hope in wealth. Instead, they were to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous. This teaching transformed lives. The wealthy began to support the church and its mission. Their generosity reflected the heart of Christ, nurturing a spirit of unity and love. At the end of Paul's letter, he took a moment to remind Timothy to guard what had been entrusted to him. He encouraged him to avoid worldly chatter and the controversies that could lead to division. Timothy understood the importance of protecting the truth. He wanted to be a faithful steward of the message of Christ. As he reflected on Paul's words, Timothy forged a deeper bond with God. He saw the challenges not as burdens but as opportunities to grow. God's faithfulness surrounded him, and he experienced the joy of being part of something much larger than himself. In this journey, Timothy learned that true leadership is not about power or authority. It is about service, humility, and love. He realized that his faith could inspire others. Each day was a chance to share hope and truth, both in word and deed. As our story draws to a close, we reflect on the lessons woven throughout the book of 1 Timothy. The essence of faith is to love deeply, to pray earnestly, and to pursue righteousness. We are reminded that it is not our age, gender, or status that defines us but the depth of our relationship with God. Timothy's journey teaches us that even in times of uncertainty, we can find strength in God's promises. His faithfulness echoes through the ages. Today, we can take comfort in knowing that as we navigate our own challenges, God is with us. He calls us to be steadfast, to guard our hearts, and to share His love with the world around us. So as we close, let us hold on to the truth that God is faithful. He equips us for every good work and guides us through every trial. Like Timothy, we can be lights in our communities, reflecting His love and truth. And in doing so, we honor the legacy of faith that has been passed down through generations. Let us embrace our calling, just as Timothy did, and walk boldly in the footsteps of Christ.